Your time and your expertise. We know that this is Putin's first time going to U.S. soil in about 10 years. Can you talk about, is there willingness from Putin to try to come and to a compromise with the president and with Ukrainian leaders to the point that he's coming overseas and speaking to us here?
I think this is a calculus by Vladimir Putin that he loses nothing by meeting with Donald Trump. Russia's economy is in shambles. They're losing a lot of people on the military front. Of course, Ukraine is as well. And if Donald Trump is serious about sanctions, James, then Vladimir Putin has to really listen to him and try to kick the can down the road. I don't know that we're going to see a whole lot of progress here today.
What kind of message does it send that Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is not attending these meetings and there is no representation, no delegation from Ukraine here?
President Trump has told the allies and Europeans in particular that the end game has to include Zelensky and Ukraine. I think he thinks that by meeting with Vladimir Putin, he can jumpstart a ceasefire or an ultimate peace. The problem is that Vladimir Putin has been negotiating with American presidents for many, many years. Donald Trump is not his first rodeo, as they say. And so he's coming in with a plan, and I think the plan is delay, because that is what Vladimir Putin and Russia has been doing right along in terms of any specter of peace in that region. They have a goal there.
We just heard that President Trump would be willing to talk about trade with Russia if these talks go well. Do you have an inkling that they'll talk about trade anyway?
Yes, I think everything will be on the table. I think Donald Trump is trying to signal, of course, what he thinks the agenda for the meeting ought to be. But his agenda for the meeting is not Vladimir Putin's agenda for the meeting. It's two different things. I think Putin is very, very interested in stabilizing his economy, but not at the expense of grabbing more land in Ukraine. And until those two things can be resolved, I think this war goes on. But you know, we all hope for Ukraine and the Ukrainian people that there's some glimmer of light that comes out of today's negotiation.
Now, today's talks are meant to somewhat set up a future talk that would include Volodymyr Zelensky. What would have to happen between the two sides today to get to that point?
Vladimir Putin is the linchpin to this. He has to agree to future discussions that involve the president of Ukraine, Zelensky. But the real problem here is that this is, again, a delay tactic by the Russians to not have sanctions imposed by the United States, rather severe sanctions. Now, we've heard the president say, hey, if I don't hear something really substantial coming out of today, I am going to impose sanctions. But we've heard that kind of rhetoric before. We'll see whether Donald Trump is willing, after a meeting that maybe is cordial but achieves nothing, whether he will be willing to really bring the sanctions hammer down on Russia.
And Brian, how is this being received back at home? How are voters responding to this? Because the criticism you often hear is that President Trump said that he was going to get this done on day one, and now we're past, way far past beyond day one, and we really haven't seen much activity in the positive direction. So are voters who normally support him still holding on hope, or are there some frustrations starting to become born?
Well, it's a mix, James. A lot of people who supported Donald Trump don't support the war in Ukraine from the standpoint of the United States sending as much military aid and money, frankly, at the end of the day, to that region. But I think people understand and are becoming more and more cognizant of the fact that the Russians have a real plan here, and it does endanger Europe. Once you take part of Ukraine, then maybe you take the rest of Ukraine. Now you've got other countries in that region who happen to be NATO countries who have a rightful fear of what the long-term plans are of Vladimir Putin and other people in Russia, including Dmitry Medvedev and Lavrov and all these other people that are there and part of the inside core of the Putin regime.
Brian Sobel, we will have to take a pause there, and we will watch to see what happens. Political analyst Brian Sobel, thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome. Have a great day.
You too.
Well, to help ease fears of immigration raids